The people who helped an injured protester. Patrick?
Yeah, and Mike, that protester was a 20-year-old black man. Chief Manley says his officers actually hit the wrong guy, and tonight he is praying for that man's family and for that man himself.
Is he okay?
This cell phone video shows the moments after Austin police fired a beanbag round into a crowd of protesters in front of its headquarters Sunday night.
When I saw him, he immediately dropped to the ground. He was seizing ground.
David Frost saw it all go down while protesting against police brutality.
We realized that this guy is in serious harm. We couldn't do anything to him underneath the bridge. He needed to get serious medical attention.
As the group tried to take the 20-year-old man to the officers lined up in front of the headquarters, officers fired beanbag rounds at the group.
We were all, just as scared as everybody else there, and for them to take that type of drastic action at us when we didn't even have any type of weapon to protect ourselves, that is complete injustice.
A volunteer medic was injured but is recovering at home. Officers eventually brought the man up. Medics then took him to the hospital in critical condition. Chief Brian Manley says this isn't what his department set out to do this weekend.
My heart is with you. I am praying for your child, and I hope that they have a complete and quick recovery, and I will make myself open to speak with you and answer questions.
Manley says officers were aiming for the man next to the victim who was throwing a backpack at officers on I-35. He plans to go over his department's policies soon.
We are thoroughly evaluating the tactics that we used this weekend to ensure that our current policies, training, and tactics are appropriate in this area.
But Frost says change needs to happen now.
There's no need for other people, for innocent bystanders to be getting hurt.
An emotional moment there for Chief Brian Manley. He also says the case is still under investigation. As for that man that you heard from there, he still wants to keep marching and protesting despite what he saw happen last night, but he does want to warn people about what they could face if they decide to join some of these protests. We're live downtown tonight. I'm Patrick Perez, KVUE News.
And as Patrick talked about beanbag bullets, but Austin police have also used things like smoke and tear gas during protests to control crowds. And although police have not confirmed it, protesters say they were also firing rubber bullets. And 3 people who were hit by what police call less lethal rounds ended up in the hospital. We're going to break down that video for you. We've got video of 2 incidences and situations where that happened. People were injured, but we do want to warn you that they may be tough to watch. This first video is from Saturday. It's short. In the beginning, you see someone in a blue shirt off to the right there, a teenage boy, according to Police Chief Brian Manley. He's standing on the berm of I-35 downtown as Austin police stand closer to the road down below. Then that pop, and he drops to the ground. A separate video shows other people picking the teenager up and carrying him away for medical treatment. Chief Manley said today he is 15 or 16 years old and was hit in the forehead. This second video is from yesterday. Before we play it, a little background here. Manley said someone threw a bottle at police officers, and officers fired either a beanbag or rubber bullet at him, but hit someone nearby instead who was recording on his phone. As protesters carried the man in his 20s toward APD for help, we hear several pops and see people drop to the ground in front of officers. Manley said police ended up bringing the man who'd been hit inside APD headquarters to be taken to the hospital. At last check, he's in critical condition. Manley also said there was a third case where a pregnant woman was hit in the stomach by what he called an impact munition. Texas Monthly is reporting it was a rubber bullet. The chief said he didn't know her condition, and the status of her pregnancy isn't clear tonight either. Manley says his department is investigating that situation as well. As we monitor tonight's demonstrations, KVUE's Luis De Leon joins us live from downtown as well. Luis, you heard Molly talking about it being much calmer there tonight, and we sure hope that what you're witnessing from your location is the same.
Mike, it really is. I have been out here since about Saturday morning at around 8:30. We saw what took place all day throughout Saturday, saw what took place all throughout Sunday. This was such an amazing moment when everyone in this crowd had their fists held into the air. There was a moment of silence as well, but really it has been peaceful for the entire time that I have really been here. In fact, there are a lot of people that are encouraging the peace as well. People on megaphones, even back at the APD headquarters, when people started to march down again, there was another crowd when those officers came along with them. And when they were outside of the APD headquarters, that is when things continued to consistently stay peaceful. Then the march, of course, Molly was in that. It came all the way down here to the Capitol, and this is what we're seeing right now, of course. You can hear the chants going on right now. And like I said, at one point, everyone had their fists up. And over off to the left, Heikki, if you want to turn the camera off to this way, over to the left, some of the DPS troopers in that area, you can go back onto the crowd now, Heikki, but some of the DPS troopers over in this area, they held their fists up with the protesters. And really, I don't even want to call it a protest at this point, because I feel like it's more appropriate to call it a peaceful demonstration as of right now. Of course, we are constantly monitoring the situation here, and so, and really it's an event. But I want you to take a look at some of the video that we were able to take today, and so you can see some of the video that we took today involved an officer shaking hands with people. People were hugging. The people that I spoke to throughout this weekend just wanted to have their voices heard like so many others across the country. Take a listen here.
I think if you're here for the right reasons, you don't really need provocations to prove a point, right? We don't need to leave something burning to feel like we made a change. If you came here, you stood in solidarity with people for the common cause, then I think that's enough for you.
Now go back to the right. And so we're going to continue showing some more scenes tonight, but for the most part, as I said, it has been very peaceful because, I have been out here throughout the weekend showing you guys some of the coverage along with my other colleagues, showing you guys the events and the protests happening. As of right now, you can still see some chants going on up to the front line there. People are very passionate about this here. And so we're going to continue to bring more coverage as we go on. So I'm going to let you guys just listen in for now.
Hands up, don't shoot! Hands up, don't shoot! Hands up, don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Hands up! 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 Don't shoot! Hands up!
We're going to wrap up now and toss it back to you, Quita.
All right, thank you, Luis. A lot happening out there tonight. And some National Guard troops were in Austin over the weekend outside the Texas state capitol. Yesterday, the governor announced that more than 1,000 Texas National Guard members would go to Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, and Austin to help with violence stemming from protests. Tense moments outside the White House today as riot police showed up to move crowds just before President Donald Trump stepped out to address reporters. Today, the president encouraged governors to be more aggressive with those who cause violence during the protest. And he said he's using the Insurrection Act of 1807 to take the military into places that let violent protests continue.
If a city or state refuses to take the actions that are necessary to defend the life and property of their residents, then I will deploy the United States military and quickly solve the problem for them.
The Insurrection Act that the president cited as reason to bring armed forces into cities is a short law. It allows the president to deploy troops to deal with violence. It was amended after Hurricane Katrina, so the president can use it to deal with things like natural disasters or epidemics. The last time a president used the Insurrection Act was in 1992. President George H.W. Bush used it in response to the Los Angeles riots. Now, a lot of you have reached out to us through Facebook, Twitter, and email asking, why are people breaking into stores or starting fires during these protests? Well, psychology experts say for many, The death of George Floyd is the straw that broke the camel's back, and they feel peacefully protesting racial injustice hasn't worked.
For some people, it's going to feel like it's helping them in the moment because they don't know what else to do.
Other psychology experts say some people just use these situations to cause chaos. The city of Dallas put a 7 p.m. curfew in place tonight after the weekend's protests. Governor Greg Abbott will be in Dallas tomorrow to talk about the state's response to ongoing protests. That's going to happen at 1 in the afternoon.
Meanwhile, the FBI is now asking for photos, videos, any information about anyone who started acting violently during peaceful protests over the past few days. And Governor Greg Abbott announced anybody who came into Texas from out of state and started looting or destroying property may face federal charges. The KVUE defenders got court documents for 6 people arrested during Saturday's protests. All of them were from the Austin area, but as of now, APD has not released the names or the charges for the dozens of other people arrested over the weekend. Too soon to tell right now if they were predominantly local or from out of the area. We will let you know as soon as we find out. And we're going to take a quick break right now, but before we do, this is a live look at the protests going on in Minneapolis, Minnesota. A sea of people still out there on this Monday night. People here have been protesting since the death of George Floyd after an encounter with Minneapolis police, which was last Monday, a week ago today. We'll have more coverage on our demonstrations in Austin right after the break. Stay with us.
We're also taking a look at a couple of thunderstorms still brewing in central Texas. Not just that, but an update on the tropics. It's the official start of hurricane season today. We've got an update on something brewing in the Bay of Campeche coming up.
is for anti-fascist. Antifa groups are typically and broadly defined as local organizations made up of left-leaning, anti-racist people who fight against neo-Nazis and white supremacists. But there's generally no national leadership team that oversees individual groups. And last year, the FBI director said it's more of an ideology than an organization. The Trump administration hasn't clarified how it would define someone as an Antifa member.
If he can't breathe, we can't breathe. That's the message about police brutality Austin artist Chris Rogers is sending on his new mural outside Native Hostel in downtown Austin. It's dedicated to George Floyd, Mike Ramos, Ahmaud Arbery, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, and Trayvon Martin.
There's not enough walls in Austin to get all these people, but I'm trying to use these tragedies as a springboard for change. And I don't know what that looks like, but I do know that there's going to be zero change if we can't even get on the same page about having a problem.
Work on the mural started today. It could take up to 10 days for it to be finished.
Starting off tonight's weather with our weather snapshot sent in by Mark Sherman of the sunrise over Lake LBJ. Just a beautiful look here. Some fantastic colors. Tomorrow morning, by the way, because of the cloud cover that we'll have, we'll see similar colors shape up in the sunrise. Be sure to take those pictures and send them in. Thanks, Mark, for that one. What we're tracking today is the scattered rain still as we approach the overnight hours. Rain moving, all thanks to a low over Big Bend. And we're also watching the tropics as today is the official start of hurricane season. And we have already something brewing off of the Yucatan Peninsula. A look over downtown towards the south and east from North Austin. Now, if we wait, we might be able to see some lightning. We've been a bit unlucky with this one, but some lightning over towards the Fayette-Bastrop County line. That's where we have our lone thunderstorm of the area. Temperature right now of 77 degrees with a mostly clear sky over Austin. Look at that, clear skies there, but if you take a look towards the south and east, some lightning in that thunderstorm that is hovering right along the Caldwell-Southern Bastrop County line. Now, this storm is tracking towards the north and the north and east. So in the next hour, if it holds together, it could very well make it into the outskirts of the Austin Metro in about the next hour or so. I'm already seeing this weakening. I'm already seeing less lightning in it, but we could see a quick downpour. Down in the tropics, we are watching an area of circulation. Tropical Depression 3 has now taken shape off of the Yucatan Peninsula, and at the moment it is forecasted to become a tropical storm in the next 24 hours. So wind speeds are expected to increase. Not just that, but the track here moving towards the north into the middle of the Gulf by Saturday afternoon. What that means for Texas, we're not sure yet. We're still a few days out from being able to tell. Be sure to stay tuned to that forecast because this could all change our forecast as we approach next week. But for today, we're tracking this low. It's sitting over areas of Big Bend, and the closer you are to the west, the more widespread that rain is. That's going to hold true for tomorrow as well. Take a look at this. This is Monday around 10. We're not seeing too much anything on our future radar, but we do have that lone thunderstorm. I'm not expecting to see much more activity overnight, just some cloud cover. I'm not expecting to see any strong storms tomorrow, but the storms that do develop will be under the heat of the day. This is around 5 in the afternoon, and we will see some more cloud cover and a few scattered showers, maybe a few isolated thunderstorms. No major threats for tomorrow afternoon. That low eventually moves north and east out of our area, and our drying trend begins. As far as how much rain here, the next 7 days, less than half of an inch. The heavier rain will be more east and southeast of our area. As far as our projections here for the weekend, we're looking at sunshine and a big warm up. Look at those temps back into the mid 90s for us. So we dry out here middle to late week. Temperatures start to climb once that cloud cover starts to clear out. And for right now, early next week looks relatively dry, but we want to watch the tropics because some of that moisture could absolutely move in. So that is something that we'll be watching here for next week. Mike?
Thanks, Marielle. Let's take a live look at the Texas state capitol, where protests against police brutality are much more peaceful tonight than the ones we've seen over the weekend. We'll have more coverage of the protests in Austin throughout KVUE News at 10 o'clock. Stay with us. Live look at the people rallying outside the Texas state capitol. I know you're looking and saying, I don't see anybody there. That's because they're on the move. The people who are protesting police brutality are marching south along South Congress right now, and KVUE's Luis De Leon is with them to tell us what's going on there. Hey, Luis.
Thank you. Mike, I am yet again amazed by this weekend because of what we're seeing right now. Once again, I am amazed by another march right now happening. You can see right here, police have decided to escort the large group of demonstrators back to APD headquarters. I'm going to turn it around now. You can see these people all here just wanting to have their voices heard. They just want to have their voices heard. As you can see, many people very passionate about the events happening this weekend. And once again, this is really one of the most peaceful moments that I have seen since starting this coverage on Saturday morning. And you can see people with their fists in the air. Chants are happening right now. We are marching apparently towards back to APD headquarters. This march started at about maybe five minutes ago now, and we've actually covered a lot of ground so far. And so you can see so many people behind me right now. Here's another officer over here. Like I said, officers are escorting them, and people are taking it very well. We actually just heard a gentleman a little bit ago, my photographer and I, he said this is a step in the right direction. That is what one gentleman said. So many people here just want to have their voices heard, and now here they are marching back to APD headquarters with officers escorting them on their way back. We're going to toss it back to you in the studio for that. Well, you know what? No. Let me show you guys the crowd here. We apologize for any sort of... killing us! We apologize for any sort of profanity or signs or anything like that. I just want to show you how many people are out here right now wanting their voices to be heard. This is one of the most amazing moments I have seen so far throughout this entire event from the weekend into today. Here come on this side over here on the outside, that is where the back end of the escort is. You can see the officers on the bikes over there. Once again, I know I keep apologizing, but I just want to apologize for any profanity that you may see. People are very passionate, and I think that's how some people do choose to express it. You can see here's the back end of the escort right back there.
Shit on. Yesterday, Officer Rico was with me tonight. Officer Rico. Fuck the phone. Goddamn.
And so once again, the reason why I may seem a little dramatic when I call it one of the most amazing moments I've seen so far, but when you consider everything that we have seen this weekend, everything was building up in intensity on Saturday. It kind of reached a peak. We saw some of those events unfold on Saturday night. Sunday was a lot more peaceful. There was still some tense moments, but it was a little bit more peaceful. Today is really when, we saw the group first gather at around 7 o'clock outside of APD headquarters. And that's really when, we're kind of just trying to follow the crowd and see what would happen. And from start till where we are right now, we have seen people encouraging peace, encouraging a peaceful protest. And you can see here let's show the crowd once again. We're coming up at the top of this hill here near San Jacinto Boulevard. We're going to try and give you guys a better vantage point of the crowd here because we are at the top of this hill, you know, at the corner of San Jacinto and 7th Street. You can usually see what the crowd looks like from here. Hey, if you want to zoom in on the crowd kind of down there, down on the hill. You can see officers are there escorting, walking along these demonstrators. And, you know, throughout the duration of this march so far, I still have not seen, you know, what events that, you know, might pose a sort of potential threat or anything like that. I've not seen anyone running off to the sidewalks or anything like that or trying to smash anything. People are just walking, chanting here. We can zoom in on the crowd in there.
Need any face masks?
We're now approaching the corner of 7th and Natchez. See an officer there having a conversation with a demonstrator, of course. You can see the crowd is now turning at Red River. And it would appear that there is another turn happening up there at 8th Street. Yeah, it would appear they are now heading back to the APD headquarters.
All right, Luis De Leon on the street on South Congress, walking along with the protesters who are marching peacefully this evening, along with APD. Quite the development. We'll be right back after this. Stay with us. Welcome back to KVUE News at 10 o'clock. Tonight we are keeping another eye on protests happening downtown. Right now this is a look at APD headquarters where people are headed back after going to the Capitol earlier. They had congregated here at APD, moved on to the Capitol, then marched along South Congress, heading back now towards APD. We have continuing coverage of our local protests for you tonight. Let's check in with KVUE's Luis De Leon, who's marching along with them. Luis?
Yeah, hey Mike, I wanted to be able to show you the crowd that we're kind of at the tail end now. People have been very enthusiastic on their way down here. As I mentioned before, this really is one of the more incredible moments that we've seen throughout all of the events this weekend leading into this late Monday night. You can see right here onto the side, we've been seeing this since about 7 o'clock. Officers getting involved with the crowd here, having conversations, just trying to have their voices heard and having peaceful conversations, people encouraging peaceful protests. You can see here, this is in front of the APD headquarters. People still with their fists up at the front of the crowd. APD officers are still lined up at the front of the APD headquarters, but it would appear that some people, they're still here just trying to peacefully protest for the time being. As you can see, the scene that you see right there, where there's a little bit more calm atmosphere between the demonstrators and the officers. That's more of what we've been seeing today. Not so much of the very loud yelling or anything like that, but people just want to be able to speak their mind, get their message across. There are some people, you can probably hear it in the background, that people are still very passionate. People are still very passionate and very enthusiastic. Jeremy, how long have you been out here at these events?
This is actually my first time today.
This is your first time. And have you seen the videos that have been happening this weekend?
Absolutely.
Did you have any concern coming out here, or did you just want to have your voice heard? What are you out here for?
So I think that the riots and the recklessness is kind of unnecessary. I came out today. I was a little scared, to be honest. I think that, like you said, I just wanted my voice to be heard. Black, white, purple, green. I just think that the officers' actions were unjustified, and so that's why I kind of came out today to just basically voice that.
And so, how do you feel about today's events? We did that march and everything. How do you feel about it?
It was pretty good. I think that our voices are definitely being heard. We're not doing it by any reckless, by damaging anybody's property or anything like that. That's what we're doing. This is a protest, right? We're not stealing things, and I appreciate that. That Austin is doing this.
Thank you so much for talking with us. We really appreciate it, Jeremy. Very nice to meet you. Mike, let me tell you, the chants are starting to calm down at least a little bit right now. We're going to show the crowd this way over here. Mike, we're going to leave it on here. We'll toss it back to you.
Thanks, Luis. Let's take another look at this same demonstration from a different vantage point. This is our tower cam pointing down towards APD headquarters. And KVUE's Molly Oak is also live in that general area covering this protest. Molly, earlier you had told us about how this peaceful conversation had begun this evening between the protesters and the police. Are you still seeing that now?
We are still seeing that now. We're seeing a little bit more chanting as well. I want to flip you around so you can see the site from our perspective over here on East 8th Street. We obviously have seen some movement from the Capitol through Congress back over to East 8th. Now, earlier, I apologize. Someone will not leave me alone out here. Hey, Mike Rush, do you mind taking over for me? We're going to keep this shot up, but if you want to cut down my mic, we've got people saying some inappropriate things behind me.
I will take it over. You stay safe, Molly, and do your job. I know you're tough and you can handle it. And that is part of what Molly has been talking about tonight. When she spoke with one of the protesters earlier this evening, he was very adamant about how it just takes just a very, very few rotten apples to make it appear that the entire bunch is spoiled. And it is true that when you get a few bad actors out in the area who may or may not even be from our area and who certainly don't seem to be promoting the cause of justice and peace and an end to police brutality, when they burn something down, when they loot something, they get a lot of attention. But the people that we have been hearing from tonight, that our reporters on the ground have been talking to this evening, are nothing like that. These people are here for a cause. They're here because they want to stop this systemic issue of police brutality against minorities that's been going on for decades upon decades upon decades. So we're just hoping that that this communication that we've been seeing, even just a few minutes ago or a few seconds ago, I think off to screen right, there's an officer speaking with a protester. We don't know what they're discussing because we did turn the audio off, but we can tell that they're having a discussion. And yeah, discussions can get a little heated if people don't disagree on things. And that's fine. That's what America's about. It's about discussing different ideas and coming together. But it's when the violence happens that it really undermines and undercuts the people who are here to see change. I've covered more protests than I care to recall in my time as a reporter, and I can tell you that that is a frustration of legitimate protesters all over the country and for whatever cause they're protesting. There we go. Look at that. There's a hug. I'm not sure if that was actually live footage. Yeah, that was from earlier this evening. But a hug between an officer and between a protester. And those protesters get frustrated because people come in and undermine their mission and make people who sit at home and watch these things not take them so seriously. So we're going to pitch back to Molly, who hopefully has shaken loose of her admirer, and she can give us an update now. Is that him again, Molly? Okay.
Well, Mike Rush, he is back with us again. I want to make this clear that this is not the type of protesters we have seen tonight. This is that phrase we keep hearing, one bad apple can't spoil the bunch. This is a perfect example of that. So let's focus on what's really happening here. This peaceful protest over by Austin Police Department headquarters. We are seeing the same officer we saw earlier before people started marching. He is back in the crowd again, and he is having that conversation. That kind of conversation is what protesters have said they've appreciated. They said that has completely changed the air for tonight as opposed to the other nights of the protests we've seen in Austin. They say they have seen officers walking alongside them, taking pictures with them, hugging them, giving them handshakes. having conversation, linking arms and marching with them. Then when they went from Austin Police Department and moved up East 8th Street onto Congress toward the Capitol, the officers on bikes rode ahead of them and made sure each intersection was blocked off so they could safely march ahead. When I've spoken with protesters, they said they never expected to be hugging a police officer on Monday after being out here Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They said it is a welcome change, and it's the peace they've been working for this entire time. So they said when they saw the respect that officers had showed them tonight, that even pushed them further to want a peaceful protest and share that respect and just increase that area for conversation. I do want to give you a look at what we're seeing. Again, we see those officers up on the steps alongside of APD headquarters in downtown Austin, protesters down below. Now, this is the site we saw earlier as well. We have seen some officers come down, shake hands, have conversations as well. It has been a welcome change from protesters from the nights previous to today, and just really a stark difference. Even earlier today, when protesters first started showing up, there was one person sitting in front of Austin Police Department with a sign. Slowly, we started seeing more people show up. When there was about 10 people, we saw an officer actually come outside of the Austin Police Department headquarters, hand out water bottles to the people. And then we slowly saw the crowd grow to this size now when we saw them marching down to the Capitol. And of course, seeing those fists raised with DPS troopers raising their fists as well. It is quite quiet right now. We have seen some silence, and we've also seen chanting as well, kind of a mix. But again, the big takeaway is that it has been a peaceful night. And that's something that protesters have said they've been working for, and they feel like it's just much more constructive to their mission here. They said when you see the spray painting or the looting or the fires, that just takes away from their message that they've been trying to pass along, Mike.
We want to know who shot him. Bradley.
Thanks, Molly. We appreciate that insight. Yes, you recapped what that gentleman said very well about how this all came about this evening. They invited the police to come out, and the police came out. And you can see that it seems to be working. There are always ebbs and flows to protests, meaning that there are sparks of violence and then there are times of peace, and hopefully this time of peace will certainly last in our area. Let's go back out now to Luis De Leon, who is also at APD headquarters, just in a different area. He looks to be in a more populated part of the protest. Luis, how's it looking out there? Is the mood still peaceful? People still cooperating with each other?
So as of right now, Mike, you can see that the crowd still is a little bit calm here. You can see that there are some conversations happening up there at the dividing line between the demonstrators and the police officers. People are still continuing to hold up their signs. People are still continuing to show their passion, but it's a much more calm atmosphere. You can see how close we are to the APD headquarters right now and everything. You can hear those drums probably in the background as well. You know, I actually heard a woman behind me saying that if you want to come out here, you have to peacefully protest. And so I think that's the important message behind all of this. You know, I've spoken with many people here earlier at around 7 o'clock, and they all were taking the megaphone and preaching the same words, saying that people need to come out here and do this peacefully. And right now, as you can see, there's a bit of a crowd out here at the corner of 8th and I-35, and people are continuing to peacefully protest. It's a calm atmosphere. I'm not hearing too much yelling at the moment. Now we're starting to hear a chant come up, and this is that consistent flow where chants start to rise again, and then calm back down.
We have lost that shot with Luis De Leon, just from technical issues, I'm sure. Back to the tower cam, where we're looking at the same protests at APD headquarters with I-35 there in the background. Over the weekend, a few times, protesters spilled out onto I-35, which is a dangerous situation for everyone involved, the protesters, drivers, the police who are trying to stay with them. So thankfully, that is not the case right now. We are seeing a peaceful Monday night. We hope that it continues to be that way for sure. We are monitoring this situation overnight. We are staffed here at the station and, of course, on KVUE.com. So stay with us on air and online for the very latest. Have a great evening, everyone.